I'm about to share with you a simple but powerful technique that's been very popular with my executive coaching clients. They tell me it reduces stress and improves their relationships. Watch this video and you'll be able to save time and get more done. Plus, in sales particularly, you'll make more money. My technique is called the conversation contract. I use it for better telephone calls, face-to-face meetings, sales calls, and when I conduct classes. In fact, I'm using it right now. I'll describe the 3 simple steps, demonstrate the conversation contract in action, and direct you to a totally free website where you can get more examples and a printable graphic reminder of the steps. All this in less than 15 minutes. Ready? Have you ever been frustrated by a conversation or walked out of a meeting thinking, we just weren't on the same page, or I wish I'd known we were going to talk about that? It happens all the time, right? Using the conversation contract will prevent those situations. This technique can even stop it in the moment, right when it is threatening to ruin your meeting. My conversation contract is based on a procedure created by therapists to help people get good results in what would otherwise be stressful conversations with teenagers, spouses, or a difficult boss. In my work with chief executives, salespeople, and top managers over more than 15 years, I have refined the conversation contract into this easy-to-remember 3-part format. Agree on mutual outcomes, clarify the process, and settle on the times. Start your work on a conversation contract by getting clarity and agreement on the outcomes desired by everyone in the meeting. Clearly, the details of the outcome are going to be created in the conversation, not while contracting for the meeting. What we can do is characterize the result we are interested in. If the outcome is a project plan, for example, we might contract to set broad milestones or insist on refining every task on the Gantt chart. You'd want to know which outcome is expected before you walked into that meeting, right? For a conversation that's part of a sales process, we might agree that at the end of the meeting, we'll have enough information to make a solid go, no-go purchase decision, or just be ready to move on to the next level of authority. As a salesperson, or even a prospect, these outcomes make for very different meetings, right? Reaching agreement on the outcome gets everyone on the same page and productive. Get clear about the outcome you're working together towards, whether it's a decision, a document, or even a dance. The outcome may even be, it often is, another conversation contract for a future meeting. If outcome is the why, the process step is the who, what, where, and how. To achieve your agreed outcome, who needs to be there? A person with particular expertise or authority? Maybe someone needs to be invited for political or social reasons. Think it through in advance, together. What do you need? A projector, a whiteboard, the budgets, a floor plan, an engineering drawing, samples, a prototype, maybe just lunch? Where should the meeting be? Do you need a quiet place free of interruptions or just a hallway moment? Are you flying to a conference center or just talking by telephone? How are you going to conduct the meeting? Is it informal, or will you have an agenda and a facilitator? Are we announcing a policy, looking for a consensus, or are we taking a vote, maybe just brainstorming? Hey, the choices are easy to make because you've already agreed on the outcome. Everyone knows why we are meeting. We've handled the why of your meeting in step 1, the outcome. The process covers the who, what, where, and how. That only leaves one thing: the whens. The third and final step in our conversation contract is the time. This sequence may seem odd since most people start with the time when they set a meeting. Are you open for a meeting at 10 o'clock on Friday? But why would you agree to a meeting without knowing its purpose, the intended outcome? Why would you want to make time for a meeting that does not have a clear process, one that gives you confidence that the time will be well spent? Now that you've learned about the conversation contract, you're much less likely to walk into these time traps. Before you commit your precious time, an irretrievable slice of your life, gently back up, talk about the intended outcome, and process until you all agree on the why, the who, What, where, how, and then, only then, the wins. Process is power. Invest time early to get process agreement. You'll save piles of time later. This is called the slow, fast method. Go slowly, setting up your process, and then you can safely go fast doing the process, like a well-tuned race car that is totally prepared before the big event. Respecting a solid process doesn't take time. It makes time. Years ago, I brought my most junior associate along to a meeting with a client and his staff. About 20 minutes into the meeting, I could feel the energy level in the room was dropping, and we just didn't seem to be getting anywhere. Well, before I could think of a solution, my young consultant said, "Excuse me for jumping in, but it occurs to me that we did not review our conversation contract at the beginning of the meeting. Should we do that now?" Well, she was being polite. I had forgotten to set a conversation contract at all when I set up that meeting. Well, it was as though someone had stopped and turned the lights on in that meeting room. I quickly got an agreement on an outcome, confirmed that the right people were in the room with the appropriate documents, and that we had adequate time to do our work. Everyone got focused, and we flew through the agenda. Remember, conversation contracts are not just set and forget. Review your conversation contract at the start of the meeting, and for longer meetings, after each break. Even if no conversation contract was set before the meeting, you can start the meeting by negotiating one. The seconds invested in confirming the process can save hours of unproductive meeting time. Even for people who use all 3 steps of my conversation contract triangle, there's one common mistake, and it can cost. Have you ever had the experience of preparing for an important meeting, one that could have a major impact on your job or your life, totally prepared for a thorough hour of discussion, only to arrive and discover that a key player needs to leave after just 15 minutes? That's a big disconnect. What a waste. Prevent that. Take a few minutes in advance to get clear about the outcomes. Lay out the process. Then everyone can see how long it's going to take. Don't just set a start time. Set an end time. Get agreement from everyone on the amount of time you have. Sequence matters. Don't do the times first. As an executive coach to CEOs, my initial meeting with a prospective client takes 90 minutes to 2 hours. There's just no point in a shorter sales call. Now suppose your career success depended on your ability to get busy chief executives to carve out 2 uninterrupted hours before he or she even knew that you could help them. Could you do that? I do, because I use a strong conversation contract that sounds like this. At the end of this meeting, we will both have a clear idea about whether my executive coaching is appropriate for you at this stage in your business and your life. We'll have a specific, confidential conversation about you, your business, your goals. We'll talk in detail about your results and your plans. Please arrange for us to speak privately and uninterrupted for 2 hours. A conversation contract for an all-day meeting involving dozens of people and lots of material might take hours to negotiate. For an ad hoc telephone call, the conversation contract might only take 15 seconds. For example, I train salespeople to say something like this: "I'm calling today to see if it makes sense for us to have a longer face-to-face meeting. If I could ask you 3 or 4 questions, we'll both know if we should get together. Do you have 5 minutes to do that now, or would you prefer to schedule another call?" Did you see all 3 parts? Outcome, process, times, and it's all there. 3 sentences, 15 seconds. Why bother with all this? One of the top complaints business people have about taking telephone calls from salespeople at the office is they're afraid you won't let them go. They don't know how long it's going to take. If you do in-home sales, uncertainty about how much time you'll take is a huge barrier to getting the appointment. Instead of letting mystery create stress and evasions, try setting up your business meetings with a telephone call like this. "I just called to set the agenda for tomorrow's meeting. If the 2 of us could talk about what we want to accomplish, who we need to have in the room, what information they should prepare, we should have a great meeting. Do you have 5 minutes to go over that now?" Did you notice? I just made a conversation contract to make a conversation contract. Once you feel the power of this, you'll do it all day. Now, this is important, crucial for your reputation and effectiveness. Don't just set contracts, respect contracts. Renegotiate your contract if you approach the end of the agreed time, no matter what is happening. Even if they're reaching for their credit card, stop and say, I notice we're close to our time, but we haven't covered everything. I'm comfortable going for another 5 minutes if you are. Or we could schedule another call to get this done. Which works best for you? Do you see all the strong messages in that question? You acknowledge the value of their time and of your time. This is crucial for salespeople whose time is often wasted by prospects. You confirm that your promise matters. If you say you're going to hit a deadline, you don't just forget about it. The conversation contract isn't a trick or a manipulation. It's totally straight and honest. So everybody can relax. When you get clear with people on the purpose of the meeting and the format of the discussion, the time is easy to agree to. If you get resistance on the time, move back and talk about the process. If they won't agree on the process, make sure you still have agreement on the outcome. You may have to start over by negotiating a different outcome, maybe an interim step. Don't pretend to move forward until you can find the why everyone can support. If you can't create a complete conversation contract, be happy. You've avoided scheduling a frustrating meeting. If you can't agree on the purpose of a meeting, why would you want to commit the time anyway? There's lots of free support material for the conversation contract and other techniques on my website, www.tonymayo.com, including a graphic you can download and print. I suggest posting it over your telephone so you can follow the format on your calls. You're going to save time, reduce stress and uncertainty, deepen and clarify your relationships, maybe even make some more money. By the way, you might want to replay the first 30 seconds of this video to see how it follows the 3 parts of the conversation contract.